Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is figure out what the amplitude and the period are. Amplitude is easy, it's just this number, so it's 4. The period is 360 over the number in front of the theta. So it's 360 over 2, which is 180 degrees. Okay, so this will complete a cycle within 180 degrees. Now, these values then are going to go from 0 to 180 because that's what our period is.
Why is it 360 over 2 not 360 times 2?
That's the formula. It's
But that the 2 is next to the theta, so whatever the angle is timesing that by 2, so why are we dividing?
Okay, so here's the formula for the period, 360 over b.
Yes.
When there's a number greater than 1 in front of the angle, the period gets shorter. Now, this is the halfway point between 0 and 180, so it's 90. This is the halfway point between the 0 and the 90, so it's 45. This is the halfway point between the 90 and the 180, so how much is that?
135.
And the easiest way to do it is you add 90 plus 180 and you divide by 2, it's 135. Okay? All right, now, this should be so we fixed this to be 4 cosine 2 theta. It said 4 cosine 1 theta before. Now, I'll plug in what I have. So 4 cosine 2 times 0 is 4 times cosine of 0, which is 4 times 1, 4. Okay? Okay, so it doesn't, okay, so it's 4 cosine 2 times 0. Because x theta is 0, so it's 4 cosine 2 times 0. This is the same as 4 cosine of 0. Cosine of 0 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. And we get that from, remember we had said it was either the unit circle or we can draw ourselves a circle. This is the point. X is 1, y is 0. This is the point 0, 1. This is negative 1, 0, 0, minus 1. So now here it's 45. X is 45. So it's going to be 4 cosine of 2 times 45. That's odd. Filling it in. I'll write it next to the table. It's easier. So it's going to be 4 cosine 2 times 45, which is 4 cosine 90. Okay? Cosine of 90, that's the x value, is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. Okay? Yes?
Wouldn't the cosine value for 0 be 1?
It was 1 times 4 is 4.
Then why is there a 0?
It's 4 cosine of 0, which is 4 times 1. So it's 4 times cosine 2 theta. Theta is 0, so it's 4 times cosine 2 times 0. This is the same as 4 times cosine of 0. So this is 4 times cosine of 0 is 1. So it's 4. Let's do 90. As we do more and more of these, it'll get simpler. So it's going to be 4 times cosine 2 times 90. This is 4 times cosine of 180. At 180, cosine is negative 1. So it's 4 times negative 1, which is negative 4.
Cosine is the x value, right?
Yes. Here we have 4 times cosine 2 times 135. So it's 4 cosine 270. At 270, cosine is 0, so this is 0. The last one is 4 cosine 2 times 180, so it's 4 cosine of 360. At 360, cosine is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. So that's how we do the values here. We're going to do a lot more examples, so it's going to get much more, more and more clear as we move on. All right, so let's graph this. When x is 0, y is 4. When x is 45, y is 0. So at 4, okay, so this is 90. 45 is right here in the middle. So at x is 45, y is 0. At x is 90, y is negative 4. At x is 135, which is the middle here, y is 0 again. And finally at 180, it's 4. So do you see how narrow the graph is? So it's going to look, whoops, like this. Okay, let me actually fix that part. It's hard, I can't see the line. Okay, that's what it looks like. All right, it's very narrow. So you know what the cosine curve normally would have looked like. It would have been like this. Now it's gotten narrower and longer. So we said from the beginning, we predicted that it was going to complete a cycle over a distance of 180. And we said that the amplitude was going to be 4. And sure enough, that's what we have here. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Yeah, no. Here, what is our amplitude? Just 5. Amplitude is the absolute value of that number, so it's just 5. We don't take the minus with it. The period is 360 over this number, 1 over 4. That is the same as 360 times 4 over 1. And what's 360 times 4?
1,440.
1,440. Okay? So we're obviously going to have to modify this. Okay? Alright, so now if it's 1,140, that means it's going to go from 0 to 1,440 in our chart. The halfway point here is 720. Okay? Halfway between these two now is 360. All right, now here, halfway between these two, I add these two, and I divide by 2. Right, or you could just add whatever this value is to this. It would also be the same. So it's 1,080. Right. Whichever, I mean, it's just a matter of preference. So, all right, so it's the halfway point between the 720 and the 1440. You can either add this and this and divide by 2, or in the case of this, you could just add these two. Okay, here. Okay, so we're going to have to modify our axes here. We're going to go to the double of this. So this is going to be 360. 720. This is going to be 1,080. And finally, 1,440. Okay? All right, so let's graph. Oh, before that, we need to fill in this chart. So here we have negative 5 cosine 1 over 4 times 0. This is negative 5 cosine of 0. Cosine of 0 is 1. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. Okay? One more.
The cosine of 0 is 1.
Right.
How'd you get 5 cos 0 is negative 5?
Okay, so cosine of 0 is 1. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5.
And we don't use our calculators.
No, you're going to use the circle. Always that circle. So this is the value 1 comma 0. This is the value 0 and 1. This is the value negative 1 and 0, and 0 and minus 1. So no matter what, I'll show you right now. Okay, let's just finish this one. So negative 5 cosine 1 over 4 times 360. What's 1 over 4 times 360? How much? 90. So here we have cosine of 90. How much is cosine of 90? It's 0. Negative 5 times 0 is 0. Okay? Next I have negative 5 cosine (1 over 4 times 720). What's a quarter of 720?
180.
180. So it's going to be negative 5 cosine of 180. Cosine of 180 is negative 1. Yes, negative 1. So negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5. Next I have negative 5 cosine 1 over 4 of 1080. So that's negative 5 cosine of 270. At 270, the cosine is 0 times negative 5 is still 0. Finally, I have negative 5 cosine 1 over 4 of 1440. This is negative 5 cosine of 360. At 360, the cosine is 1, so this is negative 5. Now, let me just show you something here. No matter what these values are, assuming that you did this column correctly, at the end of the day, when you're actually plugging them in, you're still always going to get cosine or sine of 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. At the end of the day, you're still always magically going to get back to those. Okay? Assuming that you did this correctly. And that's how you know that you did this correctly. All right? Is if you do get those in the end. Okay? At x equals 0, y is negative 5. That's here. At x equals 360, it's 0. At x equals 720, we're at 5. 1080, we're at 0. And then we're at negative 5. So, that's what it looks like. Okay? So the fact that there is a negative in front here, just like we've always seen it, it flipped the cosine around so that instead of the cosine, looking like this, it's now flipped around and it's the negative that does that. So the 5 increased the amplitude up to 5 as opposed to 1. The negative flipped it over. It was a reflection on the x-axis. And the 1 over 4 widened it. Okay?
The maximum is at top because it's a negative? Is that what?
Yes. All right. Tangent functions are different. Tangent functions are not defined all over the all real numbers. Their domain is cut up. So you see you have asymptotes at regular intervals for the tangent function. All right? So as opposed to the sine or cosine, which have a domain of all reals, the tangent function does not have a domain of all reals.